main reason we called out Gary was in trying to heat this vaulted ceiling, this room with this vaulted ceiling in the wintertime, we just weren't able to do it, period.
In the wintertime, we would want it warm in here, so we would turn up the heater, and then we would go to sleep at night, and our room would be like an oven. So we had the great idea of getting an insert to put in the fireplace. That's when we really caused bigger problems. With the very first night after we installed the fireplace insert, both my daughter and I were coughing and having a dry throat, and it got worse and worse each night. We were just having breathing problems. We were both waking up in the mornings with sore throat. I would go to wake her up, and she would be rubbing her eyes, and she wouldn't even open them. She'd be crying, saying that her eyes itched.
The health concerns are what really motivated me to get him immediately out here.
He asked me to come out and take a look at the house, and I found the duct systems in the house to be very leaky.
He said, well, Matt, your problem is in your ducting. Just replacing those and or repairing those leaks, that he could bring my house to a much more comfortable level and save me a lot of money in lost air that I'm losing in the attic. And he pointed out to me that my insulation just doesn't cut it.
And in doing a walkthrough of the house, you know, I pointed out like the can lights that he had installed and the leakiness of them, and the possibility that they might be bringing in some dust and dirt from the attic. Then Matt putting in the fireplace insert, he actually cut off his greatest source of relatively clean air. At that point, we did a healthy house inspection, including duct testing, infrared camera, blower door testing. During the blower door test, we pulled the house into a vacuum and found that we had a huge amount of infiltration coming from his can lights, and it was bringing in attic insulation. And that's what they were breathing, is the attic insulation.
20-year-old dirty attic insulation.
When he put the fireplace insert in, the infiltration that he was having come through that fireplace chimney was caused by the duct leaks. And when he plugged up the fireplace, then the only place it could get that air was from the attic floor, which had a huge number of holes in it in the form of those can lights. The comfort level, of course, was affected by bringing in that air from the attic, by bringing in cold air in the wintertime and having to reheat that air with your furnace. So you're actually blowing out hot air in the attic and bringing in cold air in its place and having to recondition. In the summertime, it's actually reverse.
Gary had brought out a high-powered flashlight, was showing those can lights, and as soon as he turned on that return system, return on the air conditioning, you just watched the insulation dust coming right through those can lights.
The can lights are not bright enough. The particles are so small that you wouldn't see it, but together with the force of it coming through and the brightness of the flashlight, you were able to see it. And visualize exactly what you were breathing.
It was really impressive. The equipment that they had, you knew they knew what they were doing. They came with an infrared camera. They showed me every wall, every ceiling surface, and it really makes a night and day difference. You can tell where the heat is coming from, where the cooling's coming from, and where your losses are. He was able to show me the insulation had completely dropped or pulled away. Had he not had that equipment, I don't know that I would have done all that work.
We find that even in brand new homes, we have some of the very same problems. It doesn't matter how much the house costs. Having the proper equipment and knowing how to use it enabled us to find out exactly what the problems were that Matt had and was causing all of his issues.
And that meant a lot to me when he showed me the numbers, showed me the amount of leakage I had, and said, now when we're done, this is how we measure it. When we're done, we'll measure it again and show you what the results are at the end.
And of course, the training that we got to enable us to do this kind of thing came from the California Building Performance Contractors Association, which gave us a whole house approach to diagnosing issues like Matt's problems.
When Gary goes out and does a load calculation to identify the size of a unit for a house, he needs to know things about the wall systems and the amount of infiltration or leakage that the house has. And historically, nobody's really looked at that. And we know that consumers are very interested in saving energy, but more interested in health and safety and comfort. And if we do the job right, health and safety and comfort provide energy savings as well. We
really needed to know how all of the elements in the house worked with one another, how the infiltration, the duct leaks, the discomfort, the respiratory issues, all were a part of how the house operated as a system.
Just changing those two things literally brought my bill down between 40 and 50% every month. He solved my problems. Had I just called another contractor, I'd probably have 2 new AC units on my roof for a large amount of money and only got my 10 or 15% savings.
As the air gets tougher to breathe, it's going to be more and more important for us to ventilate correctly. We can essentially make a clean room out of a house so that it resists dust. I guess another example would be mold. Mold can't grow without water. And so we control moisture. So if we can get the relative humidity in a house down below 50%, mold stops. And right now we've got an awful lot of people with respiratory problems. Now we can't fix respiratory problems, but we can fix the things that cause the symptoms.
And had I not even saved any money on utility bills and just the health problem was solved, I would have been completely happy with just that alone. I had to have that solved, but in effect, I killed 3 birds with 1 stone. So we got comfort, the health issues were solved, and I saved a lot of money in the meanwhile.